So for you civilians that aren't familiar with military procedures, military inmates have no rights. That means all of these active military and inactive military, but they're still, even though you may not be in active duty, you still answer to the Department of Defense. Convicted fraudster Navy Navy veteran Rick Scott. He's a senator, former governor, former JAG lawyer, Navy JAG lawyer Ron DeSantis. Jerry, this idiot you sent to stay at Turning Point and bragged about being a Navy pilot and wealthy scion, and tried to lure me back to Florida so he could sail me to Cuba on his yacht, which he did have, because the other guy that worked for some local Vermont lawyer, they went into this big long conversation about the work that needed to be done on the yacht. And he couldn't find anybody specialized enough to do the work. It was so fucking... Now, automobile shit, I understand. I don't understand fucking big yachts. So I can't repeat what they said. It made no sense to me. But I know the guy was a wealthy guy with the big boat, because him and the guy who bragged about being an apprentice for a local attorney went into a big conversation on their own. So anyway, my point is, Jerry, Ron DeSantis, Rick Scott, my father, if he's involved, Glenn, Virginia Piper, her brother Michael, or whoever the fuck it was, all these Navy people, when they're arrested, they will either cooperate, or if they don't, if whatever, let's say they pretend to cooperate, shit doesn't add up. A military doctor can order military police to strap them down to a gurney, have a nurse or EMT or whoever start an IV and pump them full of sodium amytal, and they will get the truth. Let's say they pretend to tell on everybody, and then, okay, where's your evidence? But the evidence doesn't support it. They'll just order them to be pumped full of sodium amytal. Well, what's that got to do with us? We're civilians. Once they're full of sodium amytal, they're going to talk about how they hired you and trained you to try to fuck with me. How they taught you my long history of not getting proper medical care. So you could sit there, oh, I've got a uterine mass and I'm bleeding and I'm not, they're falsifying my records and not getting treatment, and this has gone on for years. When they've spent enough time with you and you're dedicated enough to fucking with me to memorize my very long history, complicated medical history of not getting proper care to the point that you can recite it to try to bait me, to make me think and I'm talking about Stephanie, who they assigned as my roommate over at Champlain Inn, the one with the indigenous boyfriend that's always on the bus, never mind the bitch got a car. The dumb idiot who said she's Dr. Lincoln's. I'm calling Dr. Lincoln. I'm going to tell him this. If he's your doctor, and he's such a wonderful doctor, none of that makes any sense. Because if you have he'd just refer you right over to GYN Oncology if he's such a fucking good doctor. Y'all don't make no motherfucking sense. You're trying to convince me that you've been defrauded for 9 fucking years. Oh, but your doctor's so wonderful and he won't put up with that. Then if your doctor's so wonderful and won't put up with that, then why haven't you gotten proper GYN care? You tell on yourselves. Point is, you're doing this So Dr. Lincoln, I don't know if Dr. Lincoln is a civilian, whether he served in the military or not, but Dr. Lincoln, since you're watching my social media well enough to teach your patient how to lie to me, both Gina and the other idiot that walks with a cane and tries to look like a hippie bitch, once Virginia G. Piper is arrested, and Rick Scott is arrested, and DeSantis is arrested by JAG Corps, Navy JAG, and then Glenn is fuck, there's so many different, and Jerry's arrested by JAG Corps since he's bragging about being a Navy pilot. And Glenn says he's a Marine, and he's arrested by the Marine MPs, and my mother's husband is arrested by Air Force MPs. I know Scotty's gonna roll. I know he'll brag about, yeah, I don't like gays, so I helped her mother kill her. She's just a fucking faggot. He's gonna roll. He's gonna roll on her. He ain't gonna need sodium amytal. But what I'm saying is, once they're arrested, they'll either cooperate and they'll know whether or not they're actually telling the truth because of the independent evidence with all the damn with all the sophisticated surveillance. If they don't, they'll be pumped full of sodium amytal, and they're going to say, yeah, we had Dr. Lincoln have his patient lie to me. They're going to be so fucking... What's sodium amytal? What the hell is that? For those of you who don't know, go watch the movie Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal with Anthony Hopkins. In Silence of the Lambs, Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar for their role. Hannibal, Julianne Moore took over for Jodie Foster. Hannibal Lecter he's basically a serial killer. And one of his patients, he was a very rich, he was an uppity, he wasn't some street. He was like a psychiatrist to the stars. He was wealthy, he was bougie. Well, he had a very wealthy patient that was played by Gary Oldman, Mason Berger, something or another, owned a pig farm. And he was very, they were mistreating the pigs, feeding them their own feces to save money, feeding them water that they had urinated, had feces in it, to save money on watering the pig. I mean, it was really disgusting. But so he was raised in that environment, so he ended up being a child molester. So he's sitting in Dr. Lecter's office, and Dr. Lecter likes to think of himself, at least how the character was portrayed, like to think of himself as a hero. So he gave this Mason guy, this pedophile, very wealthy pedophile who loved to do drugs anyway, gave him sodium amytal poppers. It was pill form. And the guy got so fucking high that it's called truth serum. That's what truth serum is. It's sodium amytal. You're so fucking high. Think of it as like ecstasy. Dropping X. You get so fucking high, you open up and you think you're a flower child, and you have no inhibitions. You have no shame, no guilt. You're so fucking high. Yeah, I molested kids and So he starts basically bragging about how he molested kids, which ones he molested and how. And he was also so fucking high that Hannibal Lecter then told him, he said, oh, let's date. So then Hannibal Lecter, no. Hannibal Lecter see, the guy was gay. So he pretended to, Mason was flirting with him. So he goes over to the guy's house, takes a nice glass of wine, nice bottle of wine, gives him the amytal poppers there at this Mason guy's nice bougie apartment. And as he's confessing to all these crimes against children, he tells Hannibal Lecter, the doctor who gave the pedophile Mason, whatever his name was, the sodium amytal poppers, pills basically, told him to break the wine bottle and take a piece of the glass and cut his face off, which he did, and feed it to his Doberman pinchers, his dogs. So in the movie, Gary Oldman plays this guy who wants revenge against Hannibal Lecter, puts out a hit on him, offers a big reward for, the first movie, Hannibal Lecter escapes. So the second movie, the sequel, which is actually the third installment, because there was the first one called Manhunter. No, Red Dragon was the first book, but the movie was called Manhunter. I think they eventually made another remake of that movie called Red Dragon with the guy from American History X, Ed something or another. Anyway, and Fight Club. He's a good actor. I liked him. But anyway, back to my point. So Hannibal Lecter, the guy was so fucking high that he cut off his own face, chunks of his face, and fed it to the dog. So Gary Oldman plays the guy who's now got revenge, wanting to kill Hannibal Lecter. And he basically tells, so Clary Starling, the detective, the FBI agent who's investigating all this, she shows up at the guy's house and he's all mangled. His face it's hard to even look at. And he did so much damage to himself that he's on a respirator and he's permanently paralyzed. He has to use one of those electric wheelchair where you blow and he can move his neck to make it move this way or that. His hands don't even work, or maybe his hand, something. Anyway, what I'm telling you, what my whole point is, the military can legally pump your superior, the people you work for, as military, full of sodium amytal, and get them to admit to hiring you. So it doesn't matter what I say. You can keep getting in my face. Oh, I'm just coincidentally on the bus. And Bill Kinnear can keep jumping on the number 6 and following me downtown. But they're filming you. As soon as I talk to somebody and leave, they're filming you going up and threatening them. And then after you threaten them, they'll send an undercover up and go, what did that guy say to you? Oh, he threatened me. He told me that Heather over there is an undercover. She's a snitch. So they've already gotten these people on the record. All of these people that you've threatened in AA have already talked to Koozies undercovers right after you threatened them. Because they watched you go threaten them, and then they went over and said, what did that guy tell you? He's such and such a, I see that guy over there. He's this and this and this and this. Yeah, he just came over here and told me Heather was a snitch and she's an undercover and she's getting us locked up. And then their undercovers are letting them know, no, she's not. He's the snitch. So you can keep following me and going up to people behind me and lying to them, but then one of Koozies undercovers is going to come up behind you and get them into a conversation about you to see what you told them and then deprogram them, because they're not going to let me get killed because you went and told them I'm a cop getting them arrested. They can't force these people to call the police. That's how they get their testimony without ever these people are AA and NA. So I can't give up their IDs. They know that. So they know they have to have people out there watching everybody I talk to. So when you go up behind me and talk to one of my AA support people and then threaten them, they get that AA support person to snitch you out, and not you nor them even realize they're talking to a Koozie undercover or a military undercover. They're all working together. I've had veterans let me know they're cryptologists, they're spooks. Well, we have the Goldwaters watching everything. They can access, her dad set up the VA system, so she put all her shills in place to watch and see who's where. You think the NSA doesn't know that? You think they don't have veterans around here and have completely erased their ID? No, you think you know where all the veterans are at all times. No. Here's what I know. I know when I went into the Veterans Hospital in Phoenix and said, I need to see a doctor. I'm dying of septic shock from untreated cancer. They're killing me because I'm a Navy brat of the lead investigator, unofficial investigator of the Kennedy assassination by his own military people who run the VA, the Goldwaters. I can't get treatment at any of the civilian places because she's not only a military person, she's a civilian hospital administrator. She's Virginia G. Piper. She's got the Virginia G. Piper Cancer Treatment Network and Honor Health. I need medical care. I'm dying. And they could look at me and see I was sick. I could barely breathe. I was in cardiac arrest. I was yellow from I looked like I was about to die. Well, the VA hospital has their own police right there, and they're federal. They don't answer to city or state. They're their own federal police department. He's sitting there listening to this. The security guy was there when I'm telling all this to the guy in reception where you register to be seen at that ER. And he looked at the guy and they looked at me and they said, what's your father's name? And I gave them his first, middle, and last name. And they punched it in and they looked and they said, what's his birth date? And I said, it's December of 63 or 64. I think either the 11th, 12th, or 13th. And then the police, the VA police said, did you find anything? And he asked me a couple more questions. He said, do you know where your father served? I said, he was everywhere he went to some school in Florida, like an officer school or a school. I don't remember what it was. He was stationed in Corpus Christi. And I know he said that a pilot lost his wings for some California pilot. So he was stationed at some point in California. But I said, I know he was stationed in the Mediterranean. I know he was on one of the ships during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I said, he's a spook. I said, he's a cryptologist. So, yeah, I really don't know. I said, he never really talked much about anything. And at that point, the federal officer said, what are you saying to the guy at registration? And he said, I see the guy's name, Homer Eugene Moore. I see the birth date, but that's all I see. I don't see nothing else. I said, like I said, he's a spook. He's in charge of the Kennedy assassination. Then they got it. They got me registered and got me in to see the doctor. I told the doctor the same thing, and the security was standing right there. They knew goddamn well everything I said was true, or I never would have gotten in to see that doctor in the first place. Okay? Doctors on audio and video telling me that she agrees I'm dying from the sepsis. It's shutting down my major organs. It's causing congestive heart failure. She has to begin antibiotics, get me treated for sepsis. They got an IV started. She said, but I can't admit you into this hospital because you're not a veteran. Only veterans can have these beds. You have to be transferred to a civilian hospital. So she left like she was going to go arrange all that. But see, once she makes those accurate medical records, the next hospital, it's going to be real hard for them to lie and deny and say I don't have cancer and that I'm not dying from sepsis, from untreated, yada, yada, yada. About a couple hours later, some guy walks in, we're discharging you as a psych. I said, if I were a psych, I never would have gotten to see the doctor in the first fucking place. And he looked really fucking scared. He didn't sound convinced. He actually looked pretty panicked. It's all on audio and video. He's like, we're discharging you. We're just calling it a psych. I'm like, if I were a psych, they never would have let me into this ER room to see the doctor in the first place. And he took off, handed me my discharge papers, and that was it. So you all can keep trying to convince yourselves that you're getting over and nobody knows what you're doing, and you're really going to convince JAG Corps or the Marines or the Department of Defense or the NSA that you don't work for a bunch of military people to murder other military people and civil. You're not just murdering other military people and their dependents. You're helping these military people murder civilian children. Why is Israel and the Gaza thing a big deal? Because innocent civilians, women and children and families are getting murdered. You're part of murdering American military, their civilian dependents, children, women and children, and male dependents, and civilian families and their children. Trust and fucking believe. The NSA is up your ass with a flashlight and a road map. They've got you on satellite, they've got you on microwave, they've got you on video, they've got every fucking thing. They've got all your texts, all your emails. They've probably got the mayor's house and office bugged. They've got Murad's house and office bugged. They got all the doctors' houses and office bugged. They probably got their cars bugged. You guys cannot hide from no such agency. And they're called no such agency because you don't fucking see them coming. Cut your fucking losses. Go walk into the koozie office and start fucking cooperating, because you're going to get killed. Either the people you work for, if they're willing to incinerate a bunch of kids in Lahaina in their fucking homes just to do a land grab, what the fuck? You're helping them murder me. What the fuck do you think they'll do to you? They murdered Epstein while he was a fucking inmate in lockdown. I was in prison because of their false criminal allegations. I was in protective custody. I was in confinement. There's somebody in central control. It's called the Bubble in Lowell. A guard can't even get into my cell. They had to get on the radio and say, open A4. They didn't have a key where they could just open the door and come in.